you graduated as an architect.
I did.
So then you thought, let me practice a different kind of architecture, which is sculpting
Body
bodies.
architecture.
Did you face any body shaming issues or something like that around that time? You did?
Of course.
You were overweight?
I wouldn't say overweight. I was a little chubby and Punjabi mein bol rahe hain, healthy the. I am focusing on locomotor disabilities, for example, people with spinal cord injuries, people after stroke, then traumatic brain injuries, and people with amputations. Even while diagnosing it or coming out with a physical activity plan for them, it's not just about the physical factors that you notice. It is also the cultural and the societal, the environmental factors.
Yeah.
They play a huge role. It's definitely a team effort.
I think we've skipped one big one, which is, should women exercise during pregnancy?
Okay.
So women need to prioritize their health. Jitna marzi gyan de lo. Men also need to play a role in this. So how do you think men can play a role in helping women prioritize their health? Pregnancy or no pregnancy?
I feel a lot of men, I was speaking to a therapist once, she told me to practice journaling. I just took the pen, I had the notebook in my hand, and I started crying there and then. I was sobbing, I was howling. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Journaling is that powerful.
Amazing. Welcome back to the Find Your Ultra podcast. This is a conversation with Puru Malik. It's a conversation about women's health, but we do touch upon a lot of other subjects as well. Puru is a fitness expert. She's studied at California. She's done masters in exercise science, and she's an expert in not just fitness, but also pre and postnatal fitness and a bunch of other things that I learned about her during this episode. You will also love the unraveling of things and opinions as they go on, and I truly, it was a fun to do this. We touched upon a lot of other things as well. We touched upon the role that men can play, like the peripheral stuff that we take for granted, which actually plays a very important role. So without further ado, let's dive right in. This is Puru Malik and me in the Find Your Ultra podcast. Indulge away. Wonderful. Puru, welcome to the Find Your Ultra podcast.
Thank you.
Finally, we're doing this after so much back and forth. Yeah, great to have you. And I'm super excited to do this podcast with this strong, bold, fearless girl that we see on social media.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Great. There are quite a few subjects that we want to talk to you about. I've given you glimpses of that through some notes. But like we discussed, I've forgotten the notes and you haven't.
I haven't forgotten the notes.
You haven't?
No.
Okay, but I have. So the conversation is not going to be what we were planning it to be.
It's okay.
Yeah. Let's, but I mean, we just roll on this podcast. So just take us to your childhood. I mean, what we see on social media is I see your workout videos and I see someone so strong, like intimidatingly strong sometimes. Especially because, I mean, I don't do much strength training and a lot of runners don't do strength training. And people actually who don't do strength training feel that it's just so difficult. And how is she doing it or how is he doing it when you watch them like kill it? And sometimes that because I do need to do it and I do have the equipment at home. And there have been occasions when I was procrastinating on my workout and I come across this little story or a video of you with the kettlebells and I'm like, dude, isko phone ko rakh abhi and you've got to go do this now. And I've done the workout.
Yeah.
So it's inspiring and one feels that you're very strong as well. And that's rare to see in women. I'm glad it's changing. I'm glad there are more people like you who are working out, more women like you are working out and making themselves visible as well, that they're doing this and inspiring other women and men. So great. But how did you get to this? How does one become so strong? We need to understand the background of where it's coming from. Take us right to your childhood and talk us through.
Okay, before I start with my childhood, I just want to say one thing, that I feel the same way when I see you doing ultra running.
Wow, okay.
You know, so I think you have to have a passion for it. When you like something, you do more of it, you practice it more often, and you get to that stage.
Yeah.
So it's the same, like you got to ultra running. I can never imagine doing that. I can never imagine crossing a 12K, going beyond 12K. So that's a big feat for me. So, now coming back to my childhood.
But you're a runner as well. I've seen you run quite a bit and you run well. You're a good runner.
I can run, but again, I think I would call myself.
That's not your sport.
Yeah.
That's not your
I'm not
job.
passionate about it
Yeah.
like you are. I'm passionate about this.
Yeah. Yeah, I see the difference between people who've actually fallen in love with running and people who run but haven't fallen in love with
Love
running.
with it,
Yeah.
I can do it up to a certain mileage,
Mm.
and I do it predominantly for health-based reasons, not out of
Because your
love.
cardiovascular health also matters.
Exactly.
And that, although it improves in the workouts that you do as well, but I believe aerobic system gets trained when you run.
Absolutely. So that's my reason for running. It's
Sure.
not because I want to put on shoes every morning and because it makes me feel better. Of
Mm.
course, I love it, but not so much, not as much as you do,
Yeah.
that I could go on for hundreds of miles.
Fair.
And now coming back to the childhood question, I think as a child from the 90s, I remember the scenario back then was without any gadgets or any screens. And we actually had a very playful and active childhood. And I think that shaped me, that showed me the importance of balance, firstly, just play in general. Till date, I need that 1 hour of play every day. Just the forms have changed. We're not playing Pittu and Steppu anymore, but we're still playing. And of course, besides just the physical health, it helps you develop relationships as an adult. It teaches you problem-solving skills. It teaches you negotiating with
Even
other
sport
kids.
in general.
In sport in general.
Games in general. Mm.
Right. And that when that is fostered as you're a kid, it develops you into an adult who's physically literate and who wants to continue doing that. So I think that active childhood, that playful childhood has had a tremendous impact on bringing me where I am today.
Were you raised in Delhi?
In Gurgaon.
Gurgaon?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you have lots of open spaces to play?
Not really. I had a good roof. I had a good terrace where I would run around. I would bicycle a lot. There were neighborhood parks. It wasn't as congested, firstly. There wasn't so much traffic back then. Choti-choti galiyan hoti thi, chote-chote ghar hote the. But
Was it the same house?
No.
Okay.
It was in old Gurgaon.
Okay. So, I mean, let's just tell the audience that it's a beautiful place that we've come to. It's a lovely house. And guys, you need to become better friends with Puru to get invited.
My mom would be so happy to hear that.
Or start a podcast. Okay, wonderful. Let's carry on.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I understand sports and games and fitness is what you were into. But were there any incidents in school or something, or any anecdotes that you remember that shaped you into the person that you are today? Like, paint us a picture. What was your schooling like?
In terms of physical activity and sports, if I talk about, I'll be very honest, there wasn't a lot of emphasis on sports. There was a lot of emphasis on curricular activities. And yeah, I mean, it was a good thing to have sport as an extracurricular activities or arts as an extracurricular, but it wasn't emphasized enough for the benefits that it gives you. But I used to participate in sports day and annual events. I used to dance. And like I said, I always loved being active. And just because of the burden of education that we face while we're in 10th or 12th grade, with the boards are approaching and, don't get out of the house, don't waste your time, go to tuitions. That is when my health really started deteriorating. But up until then, I actually felt that if I had a proper exposure back in school towards more events, sports events and physical activity events, I could have done a lot better and a lot sooner.
Paint a picture of when your health started deteriorating. What did that mean?
So it was in, I think, around 9th or 10th grade, because of the pressure of the boards and studies and so many subjects. I stopped playing. That 1 hour of play that I used to get every day, 1 to 2 hours, that stopped entirely. And I was mostly sedentary, just shuffling between, school and tuitions and coming back with homework. And that is when I think I developed this PCOD, which is very, very common amongst women. And then I was told by my doctor to manage my weight And then I think around the 12th grade or 11th grade, I started working out again. But from what I know, you cannot cure that. You can effectively manage it. So I have to keep working out throughout my life. So my weight doesn't go beyond my fat percentage, doesn't go beyond a certain limit and exacerbate that condition of PCOD.
Really? I've heard that it's reversible.
I can't say 100%. I don't know all
It's
the
manageable.
statistics.
I think pretty much anything is manageable
Yes,
for sure.
yes.
But you think there's no cure.
I've not heard of it. I've not heard maybe if it's very mild, it can be cured. But
So all the lifestyle diseases, and I think PCOS is also amongst the lifestyle diseases. It's in the same category, is it not?
it's actually a combination of hormonal factors, could be genetics also, and lifestyle is one of the factors. So it's not just purely lifestyle.
Okay.
So that is why controlling the lifestyle can help manage it, but it can't cure it.
All right. So then talk us through your education before we get on to how you got into fitness. You graduated as an architect?
I did.
Yeah. So then you thought, let me practice a different kind of architecture, which is sculpting
Body
bodies.
architecture.
Yeah, body architecture.
I think architecture was a catalyst in my journey. Had I not done architecture, I would have never found out what balance means. It's because of the immense stress and pressure, that sleepless nights and the deadlines and basically the entire
So you
course.
practice architecture also?
Not professionally, but I completed my graduation in architecture.
Okay.
And by the end of 5 years, I realized that this is not my cup of tea and this is not the kind of lifestyle I want for the rest of my life. I won't be able to put up with it because I was really struggling with mental health back then. And yeah, that affects your physical health. So that's not the kind of lifestyle I wanted. And so I decided to change.
Nice. I'm glad you decided to change.
Me too.
Yeah. And so talk us through the transition. Did you sort of retire from architecture the day you graduated?
I think I kind of did. I wanted to just burn my books and my projects and all
Yeah.
this shit. I was like, I'm done with this. I don't
Yeah.
want this anymore.
So when you knew that this is what you don't want, that's also a great way to try and find what you want.
Right.
But did you have clarity on what you wanted or no?
No.
Yeah. So then
How did this happen?
how did this happen?
So I basically decided that until I knew one thing, that I wanted to earn, and I wanted to do something that was not architecture. But till the time I'm figuring it out, I still wanted to earn. I still wanted to make a living and not spend my parents' money. So me and my friend were watching a movie one day. We were sitting in the theater. We had just graduated, so we were chilling. And by the time I graduated, I had 5-6 years of experience in exercise and strength training under my belt. So he just gave me a nudge that why don't you've been working out for so long, you're pretty aware of the techniques and postures. Why don't you become a part-time trainer or something? I'm like, okay, that's not a bad idea. And so I decided to become a part-time trainer at Anytime Fitness. And then it just snowballed from there. I started leaning towards it and I love biology. I've always loved bio. So I started studying more about it. And then eventually it snowballed and I got into it full time.
What made you exercise?
Again,
PCOS.
PCOS. That's how it started.
And you started going to the gym and someone taught you. How did you learn the posture and everything?
You know what? It's very funny, but I can't place those memories. I remember the gym where I used to go. I remember the instructor used to make me work out, but I've forgotten all about how it started. I remember I used to run on the treadmill for 30 minutes every day. It was about cardio and fat loss.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact point how I got into lifting. I just remember that, okay, there was a point when I started doing push-ups, I started doing barbell squats, but that's as much as I can remember.
Did you face any body shaming issues or something like that around that time? Or any you did?
Of course. That is, I think that runs in our, I don't know if it's on our blood or what, मतलब वो तो भाई बहन तो वैसे ही बोल देते ना मोटी भैंस वो सब चीजें, but it's very
You were overweight?
I wouldn't say overweight. I was a little chubby and Punjabi में बोल रहे हैं healthy थे. But I wouldn't call myself overweight. I was right about the time you're around 14, 15. You've just hit puberty a couple of years ago. So you have facial hair and body hair and you've put on weight. So of course you were made fun of not just by family. वो तो चलो मजाक में बोल देते हैं. But
But that's
besides
also
that,
damaging. That's equally damaging.
absolutely. That was another thing that sparked this fire of working out in me that, I got to do something about my body. And it used to come from friends. It used to be in school, be in family. And
So that was your way of coping. So that's actually,
yes,
you stumbled upon good coping mechanisms.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then what did you decide to study after that? How did you, so from BR, did you, when you decided to pursue fitness full time or part time initially? And that's when you decided to study more about it? What did you study?
So it was after a couple of years. I started very small. I started doing the basic certifications that were required for this profession. And after a while and years of experience of acquiring these certifications, I was like, I want to go deeper into it. I want to have a more formal degree because it also gives me more credibility. And I just wanted to learn because I had exhausted my breadth of knowledge and whatever it interested me. And that's when I decided, okay, I want to do something. How do I get to masters? So that transition was transitioning from bachelor's in architecture to masters in this field was another journey altogether.
Yeah, tell me about it because I'm pretty sure that's interesting.
So in India, like we're aware, there are societal expectations to conform to a standard or
Template.
Yeah. Basically the same career path.
Yeah.
कि जो conventional है वही करो. And then transitions are not allowed. They're not easily welcomed. And that happened a couple of times. So the agencies that I was working, I wanted to go out and study because I wanted to experience that life. That was one of the reasons. The other one was there were very few courses, colleges in India that actually offer courses in exercise science or kinesiology. It's mostly BSc or physical education. So that is another reason I had to step out of India.
Where'd you go?
I went to California. And so I remember speaking to this agent one time and I was just asking him like, what all can I do? How do I get out? And what are the transcripts and everything about the process? And he completely dismissed the idea. He's like, no, you've done architecture in this field. You can't transition. They'll reject you. And I was like, the college has accepted me already. Everybody has accepted me. Who are you to reject it? Yeah. And how can you say? Because I see all these agencies and career fairs and the college fairs that happen. They talk about the conventional fields. Nobody talks about how to apply or approach sports or professions that are related to sports. And so I just decided to take it into my own hands. I researched about it. I applied to the college. I applied for the visa by myself and I got through.
Brilliant. I'm glad you took that path because most of the people would just consult people and then if they're told no,
they'd give up.
That's the end of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you also rightly pointed out there are so few courses because I mean, me included, and I can tell you a large part of the running community, people who love sports and running, like running community is growing leaps and bounds every day.
Absolutely.
And people do consider people are tired of 9 to 5s and they want to do something in the field, related to the field, and they want to study. And then you see there is a dearth of courses in India for sure. Yeah. So you found out kinesiology and did I pronounce that right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is it? Why don't you tell us?
It's basically the name's ever changing, but ultimately it's exercise science or movement science or physical education is one of the fields under it. But broadly, it's exercise science.
Exercise science. And you did your master's in it.
Yes.
Respect.
Thank you. I'm still doing it. It's not completed
No, but
yet.
I'm so glad that someone's making an effort to actually learn what the science says and learn the right ways of doing things rather than bench presses and squats only. like कि ये कर लो, 4 सेट इसके, 3 सेट इसके, 2 सेट इसके और हो जाएगा.
बिल्कुल. ये बहुत सालों की फ्रस्ट्रेशन है जो जिम्स में काम कर करके एंड बॉडी बिल्डर्स को देख देख के आई है ना, लाइक.
Great. And what did you do? So how's do you want to talk us through your time in California? How was that? How long was the course?
It's still going on. It's actually 5 years. You have to complete your
What?
masters in. It's okay. So
Doctor बन जाते थे ना time में.
हाँ, I know. It's
And
not.
the way I said that was, it's a little condescending to a fitness trainer. Doctor तो भगवान होते हैं. हाँ, which is not what I meant.
It's not like it will take 5 years. It's a deadline that you have to complete your course within 5 years. You can
Okay.
complete it in a year, 2 years. It's
It's a
basically.
self-paced sort of thing.
It's basically the research part. The last part is your thesis or research or dissertation, something of that sort, which takes up the major chunk.
Why haven't you finished it yet?
For the same reason that I'm working on this project, and that project includes a lot of research, and I've been doing that research for about a year now. And along with that, my normal professional life
Is that
here.
like online research or qualitative research with people? Does that involve?
No, that is that's online research, and this is just the first
Are you
step.
comfortable sharing the subject of your research?
Of course, it's I'm working on my literature review at the moment. So that is the same. That's building a center or a facility for individuals with acquired disabilities. Right now, I'm doing my lit review, which involves going through a lot of studies across the world, and especially in the Indian context. And in the Indian context, it's very sad because we have very limited researches in terms of physical activity for disabilities or sports for disabilities.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just been.
There are barely any researches in India
Yeah.
on anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go controversial, but they also tell you कि statistics hide कर देते हैं, and a lot of things happen.
Yeah, I mean, research is a minefield of its own. Like, who's it sponsored by? What are the objectives? And then the predetermined results are there, and there are researches done to just prove whatever you want to prove and support your business. Yeah, but fair enough. So the research is going on, but it's a good segue. Talking in the podcasting lingo, it's a good segue into people with acquired disabilities. You mentioned.
Yeah.
What does that involve? So people who've had accidents or acquired. What does that mean?
Acquired means something that you've developed over time. That's not that's not by birth.
No, I understand what the word means. I'm saying, give me examples of the kind of people that you'll be talking about. So
I am focusing on locomotor disabilities. For example, people with spinal cord injuries, people after stroke, then traumatic brain injuries, and people with amputations. So these are my segments of focus. And,
traumatic brain injuries.
Yeah.
All of that is very interesting. So, and I'm pretty sure they all bring in their unique challenges, and it can be life-changing if someone can help them. Do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and then you're currently, so once your education is over, that's when you'll start practicing this, or are you already helping people with acquired disabilities?
Not in India. Not in India. I am trying to. I'm trying to find my way into it. Like, is it because it? From what I've heard is, I don't know if this will be the right thing to say here, but
I mean, it's good to say the wrong things.
So when you're working, ek hota you do it for the money, the other is you do it for a cause. And from what I've heard, if you do something for a cause, it may or may not bring you money. So, like I mentioned, I'm working with this person in advertising with one of my friends. So he has suggested this route of following this, either pre and postnatal training or just working with general population, but accumulating enough income so I can support the program for disabilities without having to ask for them, because a majority of them also come from rural backgrounds.
Really? I'll be surprised, because acquired physical disability isn't really a rural phenomenon or a thing, because acquired physical disability, there are so many people who with lots of money and their bodies are in terrible shape and they've become immobile due to many things and they need help. I think it's a matter of being able to be out there I think it's a marketing problem more than anything else. I think there's a huge population that does need help.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But from at least the researches that I've been reading, why it's more prevalent in rural areas is because of, firstly, poor infrastructure. They have limited access to good quality healthcare through transportation. I remember I have this one of my clients who mentioned about her mother. Her mother has multiple sclerosis, and her muscle has been deteriorating or degenerating over the years. And she's in Bombay. And in a city like Bombay, there's no infrastructure for wheelchairs. It's not supportive. Somebody can hit you and go away. There are no cabs or transportation to take you from one place to another as a person with disability. So if this is so much, even in a place like Bombay, imagine how bad it is in rural areas.
For sure.
So it's only these factors that make it worse in rural areas.
Infrastructure-wise, I totally agree with you that there's in India we have a long way to go. Yeah,
and we need to come up with more physical activity programs for disabilities like this.
Absolutely. But I'm also imagining people who've got disabilities, they're also desperately seeking professionals who can help them, and there aren't too many who can help them. Or do you think there are?
No, you're right about it. You're absolutely.
There aren't too many professionals either, right? So there's definitely something to be done there. There needs to be more talk about it. There needs to be better infrastructure. There needs to be more programs and more professionals. So that the information also reaches the people who desperately need help.
Absolutely.
And hopefully some of them will also have the money to support it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely agreed with that. And as the sooner I navigate it, the sooner we can put it into place.
Yeah. And disability, it's like it puts your life on hold. And, I can only imagine how many mental health issues that come with it, right? I have I'm just curious, aren't places like hospitals and stuff, don't they employ people who can work with people with disabilities?
That is what I'm trying to find out. I really want to do this. This is one of my agendas. But again, I'm trying to put together a proposal or a program before I can approach the doctors. So just when I was researching about it, I came across this article from the Indian Spinal Institute in Delhi.
Spinal Injury Center?
Spinal Injury Center in Delhi. And they had hosted, I think, their first event or some of the very early wheelchair sports events. I think in 2022 or 21.
Okay.
So it is coming up, and I'm just trying to put together a proposal based on good research and everything, and then I might try and approach them.
So I had a Spinal Injury Center in mind as well when I was talking about this, because I have a friend working there. I'm not going to take names now, but they're working there, and they've given examples of how some people with some, let's say, spinal injuries, I'm forgetting the entire link, but it was something along the lines of that the spine, they were checking the current, and it seemed to be okay. And the issue then eventually turned out to be psychological. So a psychologist also comes into play, and then they were able to help that person. So I'm just wondering, it's not just the doctors who are directly dealing with it. There's also a place for a psychologist, also a place for someone who studied this and can help.
Absolutely.
In that situation.
Agreed. It needs to be a collaboration, especially when it comes to disabilities.
Yeah.
Because it's impacted by, even while diagnosing it or coming out with a physical activity plan for them. It's not just about the physical factors that you notice. It is also the cultural and the societal, the environmental factors.
Yeah.
They play a huge role. So it's definitely a team effort.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah, I'm glad you're working towards coming up with these programs. I'm pretty sure there's demand. I'm pretty sure you'll be one of the first ones to sort of push the ceiling for everyone to create the industry. Yeah.
I hope so.
Great. Super. Prenatal, postnatal, should we talk about that? You train those cases as well. And there are so many misconceptions about it. Going the old ways, people say no physical activity is needed, and even with the nutrition, there's like you have to eat for 2 people and all of that.
You're right
Yeah.
about that, yeah.
Yeah. So tell us some of the challenges and how, like, what's your approach? What's your advice for people who are pregnant?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that you shouldn't be lifting when you're pregnant. And
I think we've skipped one big one, which is, should women be lifting? I mean, I know the answer, and I know they should, but it's still pretty big, right? The belief that if you lift, you will bulk up.
it is.
You'll be आदमी की तरह लगने लग जाओगे तुम.
Is it still huge?
I'm
I
asking.
mean,
I don't know.
it was huge back in like a decade ago. But if it's still happening, then I'm just sad because we have access to everything now.
Yeah.
People are so much more informed, and they should be. But the idea that you're going to bulk up is completely false because it takes a lot of testosterone to do that. And yeah, it'll just make you stronger, but it won't. And as long as you're not eating as much, you're not going to bulk up.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, and definitely you're not accidentally going to put up muscle for
Exactly.
sure. Because आपकी वाट लग जाएगी करते करते and नहीं बनेगी muscle. So you have to work
बिल्कुल.
very hard
बिल्कुल.
and have the right nutrition to, yeah. Okay, great. So now we can come back to the question of should women exercise during pregnancy?
Okay. So yes, they should definitely exercise during pregnancy because firstly, the entire journey of pregnancy, it's a physical event.
Yeah.
And labor is again a physical event.
Yeah.
And postpartum is very physical event
Yeah.
with the kid running around. So even if you've not been working out before, I think you should take up some form of exercise, light to moderate intensity during pregnancy, because firstly, there's a lot of postural changes that your body goes through when you're pregnant. And there's a lot of pain because of that. So, of course, working out can control those muscular imbalances and alleviate that pain for one. It's good for your mood in general. You know, the endorphins, the happy high, it is very, very important for a person who's pregnant or postpartum once their lifestyle has completely changed. In terms of gestational diabetes as well. If
What's that?
Gestational diabetes is a form of diabetes or high blood sugar levels that you develop during pregnancy.
Oh,
Especially if you've had elevated sugar levels before as well.
okay.
There's a good possibility that you might get gestational diabetes during pregnancy.
And does
which
that
is-
go away automatically post pregnancy?
I'm not sure about that. I think definitely, like, if you have to control diabetes, you need to control your blood sugar levels.
For
So
sure.
if you work on that, you can control or reverse it.
Yeah.
So whether that's during pregnancy or postpartum.
But Guru, I'm so glad you talked about this and you're helping people like women with pregnancy, because it is a physical event, like you rightly pointed out, and a massive physical event at that, isn't it? Like the number of changes that a woman's body goes through during pregnancy is mind-boggling, isn't it? And you're right about the mood bit as well. When you work out, you'll feel, because there are so many mood swings, right? It helps with everything. Exercise does help with everything. And yeah, you need the strength too. Like it's a massive event. You need to build the strength.
Yeah.
Okay. And postpartum?
Postpartum, same thing. You have to run after the baby. You have to carry groceries. You'll actually be constantly running out after the toddler.
Yeah.
And you need that energy. You need that strength to do tasks on your own. And
Like the postural changes you mentioned during pregnancy as well as post-pregnancy. So post-pregnancy, like you're holding the baby for so long. Like
absolutely.
my wife, I've noticed, I have a 3-year-old, and she's just sitting like this, holding the baby for like hours sometimes. You know, sometimes the baby just wants to sleep in your lap. Like, and a woman is also a person who's not done this before. Like she hasn't like sat like this for 4 hours with good 6, 7, 8 kilos weight on her lap. And just imagine the amount of toll that takes on your body, right? And then you develop sciatica nerve pain, and then you develop lower back issues.
Imagine
And-
I did. I don't even have a baby. I'm just taking care of my niece a couple of hours a day.
Yeah.
And just by holding her, I had this tremendous back pain for months end. So imagine what a mother or other people who are constantly taking care of them
Yeah.
go through. It's
And not exercising.
exactly. That just makes it worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so women should exercise. What exercises are safe during pregnancy?
I think most of the traditional exercises with a few modifications here and there are safe.
Okay.
Um,
As long as they're low intensity and they.
If you've been an athlete before pregnancy, so the intensity changes throughout different trimesters. It's usually very less during the first trimester. You're told to just walk. But during the second trimester is the time when you can work on your endurance and strength. So whether you're just starting out or whether if you've been an athlete, you can continue doing that. If you've been a runner, you can continue running. Of course, under the guidance of somebody or after speaking to your gynecologist. But yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some people continue to run even in the 9th month, like just right before.
Cycling, running, they do that. If you've been doing that, you can continue doing that.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about pregnancy being a major event, but not just pregnancy. I think, is this something we were talking about before we started rolling as well? Women in India in particular, I think women worldwide actually, this is, that they don't prioritize themselves. Forget their health, they're just not a priority at all in their eyes. It's changing ever so slowly, but they're conditioned to look after others and they're more caring. That's in their nature, right? But which is why you see so many women being very unfit and unhealthy. So their health suffers in the process of looking after others. We see that everywhere. Like even, not talking about you, I haven't met your mom, but even fitness trainers, runners, everyone who's like a fitness freak and loves fitness, you look at their families and women in particular are suffering. Most of them will be overweight and having hypertension, diabetes and everything, right? So women need to prioritize their health. Jitna marzi gyan de lo. Men also need to play a role in this. So how do you think men can play a role in helping women prioritize their health? Pregnancy or no pregnancy?
So I feel a lot of men are unaware to the problems female health problems.
This will make good BTS.
Related to female health issues. So firstly, I think they need to educate themselves about their health and hormones, everything related to different life stages, beginning from menstruation to pregnancy to postpartum to menopause. So firstly is just educating yourself about it. Second, I feel is also motivating them or encouraging them, because family, friends, peers, they play a major role in keeping you active, in keeping you accountable. So there, a little encouragement, emotional support, motivation is required to make better lifestyle choices, whether you just encourage them or be a part of their journey by taking up classes together, anything, by doing cooking together, which is not just good for you, it's also good for your family, it's also good for others, it's also good for the kids who are growing up with you.
For sure.
And then also, of course, leading by example would be one of the ways. If you're conscious, if you're making good choices, she would get inspired to do the same.
Yeah. I have a question about the first bit, the education bit. I think that's probably the biggest one. How does one go about this? Like, because, I mean, kya main Google karun jaake, or do you think women can play a better role in educating men by being more vocal about what they're facing?
That is a very
Or are they
interesting
already
question.
too vocal?
That is a very, very interesting question. I think it varies because women have started becoming vocal now. But if you look at, say, if you look at my family, if you look at my mother, or if you look at previous generations, they are not very comfortable talking about issues related to female health. They feel that it is their problem and it has to be dealt by them. So, of course, I think trying to speak up about these issues, sharing the load, sharing the responsibilities plays a major role.
Yeah.
Besides that, I don't know if school can play a role in also educating young boys and girls, because
Absolutely.
that time it's pathetic when you're
Yeah.
going through puberty. You're
Yeah.
already figuring out a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
and on top of that, you're just bullied
Yeah.
for being different or for having problems or anything for that matter
Yeah.
related to that matter.
Yeah.
So I think that's all I can think of as of now. But beyond that, I think you should go Google, because we have access to information now,
Yeah.
a lot of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think being a little more empathetic towards your partner and a partner, or not just partner, but everyone in your
Women, yeah.
Yeah. I think both genders need to do that. Men more so, because I think there are gender specific problems, which is why gender specific training is also required.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm currently working with All in Running, and we have gender specific training for women. And we like make notes of monthly cycles and whatnot, and adjust the training plans accordingly.
That is very, very interesting.
Yeah.
And I think it also has more impact if a guy comes and speaks to you, if a man speaks to a man or addresses a group of males, it has more impact as compared to a female speaking to a group of males.
Yeah. Absolutely. Which was precisely the reason the first video episode that we did on this podcast was actually with Yuvraj Singh Foundation. And the lady, why am I, like, she'll kill me. I'm forgetting her name. But
this should be the BTS.
Yeah. Purnima, thank you. Yeah, I did an episode with Purnima. She heads the breast cancer program at Yuvraj Singh Foundation. And the reason they wanted to do the podcast was because they want to do it. They wanted a man and a woman talking about breast cancer. So we did that, and it was also eye-opening to hear about all the issues that they face. So they go to rural areas, and they're like, women can't mention the problem that they are feeling with their breasts. And first, it's hard to detect for themselves. They don't know, but then they're like so many. And it's also पहले शर्म आएगी बोलने में. How can you use the word breast?
बिल्कुल.
And like, it's funny but also very sad that they also get responses like कि चलो तुम्हें चेक करवाने जाते हैं और अगर कुछ नहीं निकला तो पूरा दिन की दिहाड़ी जाएगी. So कुछ नहीं निकला तो is a great news actually, but it's just sad scene, and this is in the rural areas. Breast cancer is a huge killer in across the world. But do you know the mortality rate from, I could be slightly off with the numbers, but what I remember from the conversation is that mortality rate from breast cancers in the US is about 50%, something around that, 40 to 50. So it's curable. 50% is a pretty good survival rate. In India, the survival rate is just 10%.
Oh.
Why? Because by the time they come to the doctor, they're already at stage 4. Because why is that? Because no one talks about it. Because you can't talk about it. It's just some discomfort, live with it. If it gets detected at stage 1, 90% chances of survival, stage 1 breast cancer. So, just talking about women's health issues is just so important, because you can maybe just get checked, maybe detected just in time, maybe get well, and maybe live a really good life after that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is the same thing with the PCOS also. If it gets detected on time, maybe you can control it. But because people ignore acne and facial hair and putting on weight, they're like, okay, no, these are normal symptoms that happen because you just hit puberty. But it's actually, there's a bigger underlying cause to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a major problem.
Yeah, no, we just learn to put up with shit, and we just carry on.
And this breast cancer also actually reminds me, I was listening to this podcast by psychiatrist or some trauma-based person, psychiatrist or psychologist. His name is Dr. Gabor Mate.
Yeah,
and I love his talks. He was talking about the same thing, that there was this study done in Canada on 500 cases of breast cancer in women. And because it's autoimmune, it's also a lot of it actually arises because of your mental health, because of the same societal expectations and pressures that we're talking about. It just gets so bad eventually that it manifests in a physical form.
Gabor Mate is actually a specialist of trauma. Like he talks a lot about trauma. And the last episode, in fact, the episode that has just come out with Amrit Gunjan Kochar, who's a healer. She's a Kundalini yoga practitioner. She said something really interesting in that podcast. And she said all of this is actually brewing somewhere. She gave the example of asking somebody who's just twisted their ankle. Probably, what were you thinking a moment before? Can you remember? And then most of the time, it can be an annoying question, but most of the time people are like, I was lost in some thought and I was a little all over the place. And bulk of the people and bulk of the diseases and bulk of the conditions that we have actually originate from stress and especially in the modern times. And which is why, tools like meditation, like every time anybody uses the word meditation or journaling, people feel like throwing a brick at them because it's just so ubiquitous and ridiculously over talked about. But you really can't overemphasize the benefits of it. Like they're remarkable, life-changing. It's just because they're so simple, people feel that they can't be transformative.
It's powerful. I remember my therapist, I was speaking to a therapist once, she told me to practice journaling. I've never been a person, I've always thought, okay, I'll do it, but I can't sit down with a paper and pen for some reason. And this one time I did, I hadn't even opened the notebook. I just took the pen, I had the notebook in my hand, and I started crying there and then. I was sobbing, I was howling. I'm like, what the fuck is this? I mean, journaling is that powerful.
Amazing. Yeah.
But I didn't do it again.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Great. I recently did a live session with Dr. Divya Parashar on men's mental health. And we talked about journaling as well. The people you generally feel, and people who've not journaled before, people feel that it's Dear Diary sort of a thing. Like, what is, really, am I going to do that?
Yeah.
Likhna kya hai? So people can benefit from prompts and stuff. But okay, I'm an evolved journaler. I've been journaling. Journaler hota bhi hai kuch. Is that a word? But I've been bana denge. Nice. But I have been journaling for a while. Okay, I absolutely love it. I love the clarity it gives me. मुझे एक pen और paper दे दो और my mental health just is so much better after that. So I journal about everything, and over time, because earlier I used to just document my life. ये हुआ वो हुआ कुछ लिख दिया, ठीक है, and there was no real value. एक बार खोल के देखा when I was a student in the UK for 5 years, वो पूरा टाइम की जर्नल्स है मेरे पास, and it's just a record of my life. So और मैं लिखता भी इसीलिए था कि maybe it's just a record of my life, and you go back. But in this day and age when you don't have time at all, I was like, कभी पढ़ने का टाइम तो मिलेगा नहीं उसको यार, क्यों लिखना है फिर, है ना? So but then I realized the value isn't in reading it again. The value is just in the writing itself.
Putting out your thoughts.
Exactly. Whatever's in there is just out on paper. It just gives you so much more clarity. And then I discovered this wonderful app. इन लोगों को मुझे pay करना चाहिए. कितने लोगों को मैंने recommend कर दिया. Intellect. It's a free app.
Okay.
And it gives you prompts. It's an amazing journaling app. So there are people who now because I've evolved in journaling, I love pen and paper. But people find that a bit of a hassle, right? कि कब बैठना पड़ेगा especially. But you have your phone all the time, and then you can journal on your phone wherever if you're in a queue for something. These days we are rarely in a queue for anything. But wherever you are, you just open your phone and you open the app. It gives you prompts, and the prompts are amazing. Prompts could be about, one is gratitude journal. It'll have questions around gratitude. What are three things that you're feeling grateful about right now in this moment? Or whatever, some prompts around that. One amazing one is problem solving. So if you have a problem, it'll ask you to describe the problem in detail. And then, okay, what are the possible solutions to this? Then you write the solutions down. And if you've had another is relationship sort of a journal. So if you had a quarrel with somebody, so it'll ask you to first describe what have they done? And then what was your response? And then, okay, step into their shoes for a minute and then write down what would you have done if you were in their place. And then, so by the time you're at the end of it, you're like, dude, लड़ाई खत्म हो गई
You know, I'll get pissed off at the app and throw it. But I understand that.
You know, all the because you're thinking so much. When you put that down somewhere, it has value in itself.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Agreed. And I'm
We've-
inspired by you right now.
Wow, really?
I will, yeah, I'll take it up. I'll try.
Thank you so much. Please take it up. Great. Let us talk about a lot of people want to do fitness, but they struggle with discipline and they get intimidated. Like definitely looking at Puru's videos, people do get intimidated. इतनी strength कहाँ से आ सकती है यार? Intimidated is just, I mean, it's easily solvable कि ये strength build की जाती है. Time लगता है, वक्त लगता है. आप हल्के से उठाओ. आज आप let's say आधा किलो का डंबल उठा पा रहे हो, तो आप भी 25 किलो पे पहुंच सकते हो if you just gradually, progressively overload with the right technique, possibly or preferably with the guidance of somebody, right? Like a coach. So intimidation part तो वहां से हट जाएगा. Discipline and motivation. What are your views on that? How can people build discipline and motivation in 2025?
Motivation is a very fickle thing. It may or may not stay. It may not last for long. But that is where the mental resilience part comes in. That comes with strength training or just exercising in general. If you have a drive strong enough, you will, if it is your priority, I say that to everybody. When something is your priority, you make everything else revolve around it. You schedule, if you have to drop off a kid at school, you will schedule your meetings around it, what time you're going to come back, what time you're going to go, what time you're going to cook the breakfast. So everything would revolve around it. It's the same with any other priority. So if working out or your health or taking out this 20, 30 minutes is your priority, you'll make things work around it. Otherwise, you just don't want it strong enough. And there are different techniques that can help with building that accountability or motivation. But again, motivation is not a sustainable thing.
Yeah.
It comes and goes. So you somehow have to find that drive and go for it.
Wonderful. I think it's been a beautiful conversation.
Absolutely.
Thank you for making time, Puru Malik.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks a lot.
much.
Cheers.
Yeah, man.
We've done it.